October 23, 1942. The desert night air is thick with tension. El Alamein, Egypt. Under a moonless sky, thousands of Allied troops mass in silence. In the distance, the enemy waits. A single British lieutenant, Geoffrey Geordie Martin, lies face down in the sand. His uniform is coated in dust. The rumble of thousands of guns trembles like thunder on the horizon. His heart pounds. His breath is shallow. He tightens his grip on his entrenching tool, the cold steel pressing into his palm. Then bang. The desert erupts. Explosions bloom in the darkness. Mortar fire lights up the sky. The night turns into an inferno. Close on Martin's face. Sweat, grit, resolve. He whispers to himself, "For Egypt, for them." Cut to artillery crews, tanks moving in the shadows, sappers crawling forward to clear minefields. The war has come to this small railway halt in the desert, and with it, a moment that will define a turning point. In October 1942, across deserts and seas, in forests and islands, men were tested, and some would become legends. This was the month when heroes were made. By the autumn of 1942, the Second World War had reached a perilous tipping point. In North Africa, the Axis forces, commanded by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, threatened to sweep through Egypt and seize the Suez Canal. The Middle East's lifeline and vital oil routes hung in the balance. The British Eighth Army, under Lieutenant General Bernard Montgomery, braced for a decisive confrontation. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, the Guadalcanal campaign raged. The United States Marines, green, untested, but determined, held a fragile perimeter around Henderson Field, fighting to prevent the Japanese from regaining control. At sea, carrier warfare was changing the balance. Losses and victories on both sides carried a cost far beyond the ships. They were about pilots, seasoned airmen, about the future of naval power. And in Berlin and Rome, Axis commanders watched nervously. Their supply lines were stretched. Fuel was becoming scarce. In London, Allied leaders saw an opportunity. If they struck now, they might finally turn the tide. The stakes could not have been higher. The Allies' plan was meticulous. On the night of October 23rd, Montgomery ordered Operation Lightfoot, a massive infantry attack designed to clear paths through Rommel's minefields. In whispered darkness, sappers crept forward, using handheld mine detectors. The soft beep of each device echoed in the desert night. Too loud, perhaps, but necessary. Behind them lay armored divisions ready to surge, but only once corridors were cleared. The plan hinged on precision, timing, and immense courage. On the flank, Allied forces mounted diversionary operations. Dummy tanks, fake supply dumps, false radio chatter. Montgomery hoped to deceive Rommel into diverting his reserves. But the Axis defenses were fierce. Rommel, co-commanding roughly 116,000 men, had laid deep minefields, his so-called Devil's Gardens, and built strong defensive lines. As Allied troops moved forward, German and Italian gunners opened fire. The desert shook. Tanks overturned. Night became chaos. 2,140 hours. October 23rd. Over 800 guns begin the barrage. A creeping wall of fire. Artillery rounds thunder across the desert, illuminating the darkness in violent flashes. Infantry advances. Tracer lines guide them. Engineers lift their detectors, probing for mines. Explosions erupt as paths are cleared, one by one. At dawn, British tanks, Grant, Sherman, Crusader, move into the gaps at the cost of blood, sweat, and steel. Their engines roar. The desert trembles. Rommel launches counterattacks. Panzer divisions surge, hoping to push back the Allies. But infantry, supported by artillery and aircraft, holds the corridors. On October 26th, Allied aircraft and artillery hit key fuel tankers vital to the Axis war machine. Without fuel, tanks become metal coffins. By November 2nd, though beyond our month, foreshadowing matters. Rommel sends a long, grim message to Hitler. He must retreat. The Germans begin to fall back under mounting losses. While the bombs fell in the desert, another drama was unfolding thousands of miles away. On October 26, 1942, the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands erupted. Japanese carrier forces struck with ferocity. Dive bombers crashed into the USS Hornet, CV-8, scoring a fatal blow. The Hornet lay ablaze. Eventually, her escort destroyers were forced to abandon her as Japanese destroyers finished her off under cover of night. Her loss, a heartbreak for the U.S. Navy. Yet, the Japanese paid dearly. Veteran aviators, some of whom had survived Pearl Harbor, were lost in numbers that would cripple their carrier force for months. From the deck of the Enterprise, sailors watched plumes of smoke rise where the Hornet once floated free. On Guadalcanal, Marine infantry tightened their hold on Henderson Field. Every scrap of airspace, every pilot, every flight mattered. October 1942 closed not with a triumphant fanfare, but a quiet, grim resolve. In the desert, Montgomery's forces had cracked the Axis line at El Alamein. What began under cover of darkness had broken Rommel's grip. The Allies had held and struck back. At sea, though the Hornet was lost, the United States had wrested a deeper advantage. The Japanese carrier corps, once elite, suffered losses they could not easily recover from. Their ability to project air power into the Solomons was blunted. Heroes were not just those who survived. They were those who fought with conviction, with courage, in moments when the world held its breath. Geoffrey Martin, dirt-scratched, bloodied, weary, stands on a small ridge. Dawn breaks. He looks east, toward an uncertain horizon. He lets his helmet fall to his feet. He takes a breath. In October 1942, in the heat of desert nights and on the restless sea, ordinary men became the kind of heroes history would remember. Their courage changed the course of war. They say the turning point comes when the impossible is still possible. For many, October 1942 was that moment. October 11, 1942. The skies over the eastern Mediterranean tremble with the roar of aircraft engines. RAF pilots, young and fearless, patrol the desert skies in Hurricane and Spitfire fighters, covering supply convoys to beleaguered forces at El Alamein. Close up on Flight Lieutenant Peter Collins. Wheels of Spitfire engines whine as he climbs above the clouds. Dust and sand shimmer below. He spots a formation of German Messerschmitt Bf 109s, sleek and deadly. "Hold steady," he mutters to his wingman. "We protect them, no matter the cost." Dogfights erupt. Tracers crisscross the sunlit sky. Engines scream, wings shatter, and planes spiral. Each dive, each maneuver is life or death. Collins' squadron fights not just to win the air, but to save men on the ground. These skirmishes, though small in scale compared to massive land battles, were decisive. Air superiority meant supply lines remained open, artillery could be directed, and lives were spared. Heroes are not only those who face enemy fire. In October 1942, men and women toiled behind the scenes, where danger was unseen but no less real. Convoys of trucks snake across the western desert. Soldiers sweat in dusty heat, unloading crates of ammunition, water, and food under sporadic shellfire. Medical teams carry wounded across minefields, improvising stretchers from uniform cloth and wooden poles. His hands are raw, his eyes tired, yet he lifts another crate. "We keep them alive. That is our battle," he says. Naval convoys, often shelled by U-boats in the Mediterranean, risked their lives to maintain the lifeblood of armies. Every gallon of fuel delivered, every ton of supplies, was a thread holding the fragile tapestry of victory together. While history remembers the grand strategies, October 1942 was also a mosaic of countless smaller battles, each shaping the larger outcome. Guadalcanal, night patrol near Henderson Field. Private James "Jimmy" Reynolds crawls through the mud. Japanese soldiers advance silently, knives drawn. A sudden burst of gunfire. Reynolds's unit holds the line. He saves his comrades, sacrificing his chance to retreat. In Tunisia, the Free French forces clash with Axis troops, seizing a vital supply depot. Sergeant Lucien Moreau inspires his men through sheer courage, storming fortified buildings, refusing to yield. These acts, often unnoticed in the annals of strategy, ripple outward, shaping morale, strategy, and the very survival of armies. By the end of October, the cumulative efforts of thousands of men and women were beginning to reshape the war's trajectory. In North Africa, the Eighth Army's pressure would soon force Axis forces into retreat. In the Pacific, Guadalcanal's defenders held Henderson Field, denying the Japanese control of vital territory. At sea, carrier-based battles had begun to drain veteran pilots and naval assets from Japan's fleet. October 1942 was not a single victory. It was the forging of momentum. It was the month when courage, ingenuity, and sacrifice aligned to tip the scales. Faces of exhausted soldiers, sailors, and airmen. Smoke rises in the background. Some wounded, some grieving, some determined. History measures time in years and months, but heroes measure it in hours and minutes. In October 1942, ordinary men became legends. From the burning desert to the storm-tossed seas, from jungle skirmishes to endless skies, the world was changed. Veterans years later, walking silently through El Alamein Cemetery, Guadalcanal Memorial, and naval monuments. Names etched in stone, faces remembered, stories told. They were not seeking glory. They were seeking survival, honor, and the faint hope that their children would never know the same horrors. October 1942. A month of fire, a month of fear, a month of heroes. War is not fought by soldiers alone. In October 1942, civilians faced the same fear, the same devastation, and many became unsung heroes. Occupied France. Villagers of a small Normandy town moved silently at night, passing messages to the resistance. Supplies for Allied agents are hidden under floorboards. One teenager, Claire Dubois, carries encrypted notes across a moonlit field, knowing discovery could mean death. "We fight too," she whispers to herself, clutching a package. In the Soviet Union, the siege of Leningrad continues. Families scavenge for firewood, ration meager bread, and hide children in basements as bombers pass overhead. Each act of survival is an act of courage. These civilians bore witness, resisted quietly, and preserved the will to fight. Their courage, often invisible, was no less vital than that of soldiers in the desert or airmen in the Pacific. October 1942 was a month of heroism, but also loss. Rows of makeshift graves in the western desert. Faces of fallen soldiers pressed into photographs. Letters scattered in the sand. In Guadalcanal, medics attend to casualties, their hands shaking but determined. Nurse Margaret Henderson, holding the hand of a dying Marine. "You will be remembered," she says, voice breaking. Every victory carried a price. Every strategic gain was etched in blood and sacrifice. Heroes were born in courage, yes, but also in survival, in endurance, in the quiet moments where fear was overcome. As October 1942 ended, the war was far from over, but something had shifted. In North Africa, Axis forces would soon retreat across Libya. On Guadalcanal, Allied forces held their positions, denying the Japanese critical airfields. At sea, the U.S. Navy began gaining confidence in carrier warfare, learning lessons that would shape victories to come. Soldiers cleaning weapons, pilots inspecting planes, sailors repairing ships, civilians rebuilding homes. Faces tired but determined. History is often told through battles and strategies. Yet history is made in the courage of those who stand, who resist, who persevere when the night seems endless. October 1942 reminds us that heroes are not born. They are made in the crucible of choice, in moments when ordinary people decide to act, to fight, to endure. October 1942. A month of fire and shadow, of loss and triumph. A month when the impossible was tested, and human courage was proven. Dawn breaks over El Alamein Desert. Smoke rises from Guadalcanal jungle. The waves lap quietly against a Pacific beach once scarred by naval battle. They were ordinary people in extraordinary times. They fought, they endured, and they became heroes. October 1942 remembered not for a single victory, but for the courage that changed the course of the world.